I believe people are coming around to see it. And I also would just say, in terms of what we heard about the fact that I shouldn't talk about my opponent's days at HP, she's running on her record as the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard. So what she did there counts, and I'm going to keep on telling the truth about it.
And I'm going to keep watching the clock. I'm sorry, time is up. Pilar, you have the next question.
Yes, and it's for the senator. Senator, in news stories and the polls, it appears that voters and analysts tend to look at Senator Feinstein as the California senator who can work with the other side of the aisle, and you as the more partisan senator. Can you think of a time that you disagreed strongly with President Obama on something and you did something about it?
Well, yes, I actually can. First, let me just say that I am a co-sponsor on 500 Republican bills. And I could give you a list of things I've worked with my colleagues. The after-school bill was done with a Republican colleague, and a lot of the work I've done for veterans has been done with Republican colleagues. With President Obama, at this particular point, I do think we need an exit strategy from Afghanistan. I do believe it's very important. So that's one clear example. I also, if I were him, I'd appoint Elizabeth Warren right now to head that new consumer agency that's going to be looking over credit cards, because as you know, people don't read all that fine print, and we need to have somebody looking over the shoulder of the banks. My opponent opposed that Wall Street reform. It sets up that consumer protection agency for the first time. You'll be able to have someone looking out for you, make sure you don't get I don't want to use that word. Make sure that you get treated fairly on your mortgage and you get treated fairly on your credit cards.
Senator, thank you. Ms. Fiorina, your reply.
I think the senator is right. We both need to run on our records, and I am proud to run on my record at Hewlett-Packard. And I think the senator must run on her record. And the truth is, her record is long on talk and very short on achievement. And the reason it is short on achievement, it is because she is one of the most bitterly partisan members of the U.S. Senate. That is why, after 18 long years in the Senate, 28 years in Washington, D.C., she only has 4 relatively insignificant bills with her name on them. The truth is, her signature piece of legislation as the chairman of Environment and Public Works, she could not shepherd that to a conclusion. That bill was taken away from her and given to John Kerry because it was believed that he had a better chance of getting bipartisan support. I don't happen to support her cap and trade bill. It has been called the most expensive piece of regulation and legislation in U.S. history, but nevertheless, I think it's telling that her bitter partisanship prevented her from getting her top priority accomplished in the U.S. Senate.
Thank you. Carla, you have the next question.
Ms. Fiorina, you're pro-life, and you have said you would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade if given the opportunity, and you believe that life begins at conception. Does that mean you would also seek to deny funding to institutions which are engaged in embryonic stem cell research?
Well, I am pro-life. I am pro-life because of my personal experiences. My husband's mother was told to abort him. She did not. Her health was threatened as a result. She lived a ripe old age to 98, and my husband obviously is the rock of my life. I recognize that not everyone agrees with me on this, and I recognize as well that the most important issue right now in this election is the creation of jobs and getting our government under control. But with regard to your very specific question, I am comfortable with federal funding for adult stem cell research, which shows more promise according to many scientists. And I've also been very clear in saying that if embryos were going to be destroyed in any event, that I have no trouble with research. It is when embryos are produced for the purposes of destruction, for the purposes of stem cell research, that I have a great deal of difficulty. And I think the judge's ruling that recently came out basically suggested that we don't have clear enough guidelines about whether embryos are being produced for destruction. Senator Boxer voted against a ban on human cloning, so we know where she stands on this issue. Her positions on these issues are extreme. She has said that she doesn't think a baby has rights until it leaves the hospital. So I think the judge has said we need to have some clarity about these rules to ensure that embryos are not being destroyed.
But before the senator gets a chance to reply, real quick, I just want to make sure that the premise of her question was correct. You do suggest that we overturn Roe v. Wade?
If there were an opportunity, is not an issue that I am running on. And by the way, the reason for that is because I'm a strong believer in states' rights. I think voters have to make some of these very difficult decisions. I am prepared to trust the voters' judgment on offshore drilling. I am prepared to trust the voters' judgment on the right to choose. And the Californians have made their decisions on those issues.
Thank you. Senator, your rebuttal.
Yes, I mean, I respect everybody's personal view, and everybody has a story as to why they come to a certain position. I respect it. That's why I'm pro-choice. I let people decide. But what the people of California have to understand is that if my opponent's views prevailed, women and doctors would be criminals. They would go to jail, and women would die like they did before Roe v. Wade. So this isn't about my opponent's personal view or my personal view. It's about the women and the families of our state and of our country. Now, my opponent says that I passed 4 bills. She keeps saying that. Well, first she said 3, now she's made it 4. The fact is 1,000 Boxer provisions have been enacted. And we have a list of these, and we have 100 of them up on barbaraboxer.com for you to see. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud of those provisions. Now, under the way she is counting bills, McCain-Feingold, neither of them would have gotten credit for the McCain-Feingold campaign finance reform, because I don't know whether my opponent is trying to confuse people, but the fact of the matter is the way a bill becomes a law has many, many tracks. It could be straightforward to the bill with your name on it.
I hate to be a broken record,
it could be an amendment.
Time is up.
It could be other things.
Sorry, Senator.
It's okay.
Scott, you have the next question.
Senator Boxer, there's no question that President Obama inherited a terrible economy, and Democrats often blame the current troubles on his predecessor.
Yeah.
And yet, Democrats have controlled Congress for almost 4 years. President Obama is nearing the halfway point in his first term, and the unemployment rate is stuck above 9%, and there are signs that the economy is slowing down again. At what point should Democrats stop blaming President Bush and start taking full responsibility for the economy?
We're taking responsibility and we're taking action. I talked about a number of those things that we have already done. Making sure teachers stay in the classroom, making sure that small businesses get access to credit. All we need is one Republican to get that bill done when we get back. And I think we're going to get that one Republican. And then we can create 500 to 1,000 to a million new jobs. But, you know, I feel that you have to look at history. Otherwise, you'll repeat it. So let me tell you, I served for 8 years with Bill Clinton, and I supported every budget and every economic policy. We created 23 million new jobs net. And not only did we balance the budget, but we created a surplus. Then I served with 8 years with George W. Bush. I did not support his priorities and his budgets. We wound up with a $1.3 trillion deficit after those 8 years, and the worst job creation record since Herbert Hoover. 1 million new jobs compared to 23 million. So yes, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to solve it overnight. But job by job by job, we are going to solve it. There's a man out here in the audience, I don't want to embarrass him, Jay Smith, if he's out there, who is working because of the Economic Recovery Act on Doyle Drive. 2,000 workers working because of the Economic Recovery Act. So yes, we're taking responsibility, but people in this country and my state have to get the whole picture.
Thank you. Ms. Fiorina, your reply.
Recovery summer has become the summer of despair in California. In the last 20 months, our unemployment rate has gone from 10.2% to 12.3%. I have talked with small business owners up and down this state, and they are being strangled by too much cost, too much uncertainty, too much regulation. Barbara Boxer is promising numbers and jobs now. When she voted for that stimulus bill that has manifestly failed, she said that it would bring help and hope and 400,000 jobs to this state, and we now have 2.3 million people out of work. And as for fiscal discipline, why is it that she has voted 6 times against a balanced budget amendment, including during President Clinton's time? Why is it that she has voted 6 times to increase the debt ceiling in the last 20 months alone? And why is it that she has voted 4 times against a relatively modest bipartisan proposal to slow the rate of increase in federal government spending to 1.5%? Her record is crystal clear.
Time is up again. Pilar, you have the next question.
Yes, and it's for Ms. Fiorina. Your campaign put out an ad some time ago that seemed to equate global warming with the weather. You have also said that you think AB 32, the anti-global warming measure in California, it's a job killer and should be suspended. There is a proposition now in the ballot in California, Prop 23, that would do just that. And I'm not sure you have taken a position on that, so I have a double question. What is your position on Prop 23, and do you think global warming is real, or is it just a problem with the weather?
You know, the ad that you are referring to was really talking about national security and what are our priorities for national security. And I think that's a very legitimate question to be asked of Senator Boxer, who has been campaigning since 1992 on cutting our military budget in half, who believes that terrorists should be given the constitutional rights of U.S. citizens. That is what that ad was about. We should always have the courage to examine the science, but all scientists agree on this. The only way to impact global warming is to act globally. A state acting alone will make no difference. What we need in this country, a priority of mine, if I am fortunate enough to gain the confidence of the voters of California, will be a national and comprehensive energy bill. And that means that AB 32 would be superseded. It should be. It would have been superseded by Barbara Boxer's cap and trade bill, but her bill was completely the wrong track. It would have cost us trillions of dollars in lost economic output, millions of jobs. It doesn't do enough to fund energy R&D. What we need to do in a comprehensive energy policy is fund energy R&D. We need to give more federal funding to Lawrence Livermore, for example. We need to give more to Berkeley. We also need to take advantage in an environmentally responsible way of every source of energy we have, including nuclear, wind, solar. And we have to acknowledge that we cannot put bills in place that punish excessively energy-intensive industries like farming, like manufacturing, and like small business owners.
Time is up, but you didn't answer part of Pilar's question, which is, do you support Prop 23, which would suspend AB 32?
My focus is on a national energy policy.
Yes or no?
Because that is why...
You just answered, do you support it?
I have not taken a position on it yet, because I think what we are doing, there's no question in my mind, and there's no question in people who have studied AB 32, that AB 32 is, at the very least, in the short term, a job killer. So why would we go forward? But what we need is national energy policy.
Senator Boxer?
Well, if you can't take a stand on Prop 23, I don't know what you will take a stand on. This is a crucial bill, and I'll tell you the reason why. If we overturn California's clean energy policies, that's going to mean that China takes the lead away from us with solar, that Germany takes the lead away from us with wind, but I guess my opponent is kind of used to creating jobs in China and other places. I want those jobs created here in America. I want to see the words made in America again. And this is the way we're going to do it. The whole world is going green. And I know that my opponent has gotten huge support from the coal companies, from big oil. They are hoping that I don't make it. And I am asking the people of this state who care about these issues to really take note. Because if my opponent gets there, California is done for in terms of its lead on clean energy. No bill I ever wrote ever superseded California's clean energy laws, because I honor those laws, and they're creating jobs now.
Thank you. Time is up. Okay, I think now would be a good time to go back to a couple questions from viewers. And this next question is for Senator Boxer. It comes from Alana Armstrong. She's an undergraduate student here at St. Mary's College. She's not a Democrat, not a Republican. She refers to herself as an independent.
Growing up on a small farm in the Central Valley, one thing that has always shocked me is the fact that the largest and wealthiest agribusiness interests collect 74% of the farm subsidies, while small family farms are unable to compete.